Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Troy Charles. Here are your top stories. Thunder Bay District Health Unit is reporting 10 new COVID-19 cases over a 3-day span following a break in announcements over Christmas Day and Boxing Day. All individuals are from the Thunder Bay area. 6 contracted the virus through close contact. 1 is associated with travel, while 2 have no known exposure. The final case is related to Southbridge Roseview long-term care home, where sadly another life has been claimed as a result of COVID-19. The latest death at Roseview is their 15th during the pandemic, and that accounts for 15 of the 17 deaths related to the virus in the district. The distribution of vaccines has already begun for priority groups in Thunder Bay, but Fort William First Nation still awaits a concrete plan for the vaccine to arrive on the reserve. Chief Peter Collins understands that frontline healthcare workers are the first to get vaccinated, saying it just makes sense. He believes the first round of vaccines will be distributed to remote First Nation communities and that his community would likely be a part of a second or third round because of their proximity to a large centre like Thunder Bay.
I'm part of I'm a subcommittee on the vaccine rollout for First Nations, and we're still, there's no identified date yet today, but we're working on legitimacy of how it's going to roll out and who really gets it first in the First Nations.
Though much is yet to be determined, Collins is hoping that the vaccine will reach Fort William First Nation around February. The pandemic has forced many businesses in the city to pivot on their traditional holiday operations. However, for community essential services like the Do Drop In and Shelter House, they will be continuing to serve the community the way they have since March. The community heavily relies on these centers, especially during the holidays. Both of the organizations had to make changes in order to be able to continue to serve the public efficiently and safely. The Do Drop In Executive Director Michael Keebel says it has been a challenging year with their numbers increasing due to the virus, but the operations will not change. As for Shelter House, Executive Director Michelle Jordan says there will be no static bed list. However, they will be serving the community the same way they have.
So it would have been whoever stayed the night before was able to come back, but we weren't taking new clients in. And then we would open up beds as we needed to, but we don't want to do that right now because of the winter, so we're planning on continuing the way things are. People are masked in the building, trying to keep them social distanced.
It's been a challenging year. Our numbers have been impacted by COVID. We will be operating the same as we have been. We will be doing takeout meals from the corridor here.
Keebel and Jordan agreed that the need is at an all-time high this year as a result of the pandemic. They say that hunger does not stop, so there's no choice but to continue to adapt to the constant changes. Thunder Bay's 2 local ski hills are feeling the impacts of the 14-day lockdown. The Christmas holidays serve as the busiest time of the year for the slopes, and officials at both Loch Lomond and Mount Baldy were under the impression they would be allowed to operate if the province did ever go into another lockdown. Avery McRae explains.
Loch Lomond ski area and Mount Baldy have done everything they can to ensure the safety of the public at the ski hills. Social distancing measures are in place. Much of the regular options have been moved outdoors to keep people outside, but when the Ford government announced the 14-day lockdown for northwestern Ontario, the hills had no choice but to shut down. The news not only is upsetting for local skiers and boarders, but the staff as well.
It's very upsetting that we have to be closed. I mean, we've spent the last 8 months now planning to be opened in this sort of capacity. We can operate without our chalet. We can operate in a very safe COVID fashion. And we have been doing that over the last several weeks.
You know, we'll just have to take it as it comes. We've got 2 weeks here, so we regroup. We got lots of snow, and hopefully we get the okay in 2 weeks to open back up.
The closure has forced Loch Lomond to lay off the majority of their staff, which they hope to bring back when they are allowed to reopen. The 14-day closure falls over the student holiday break, which normally would leave the ski hills flooded with friends and family eager to enjoy the time off.
This week and a half period post Christmas is our single largest 10-day stretch of the year. It accounts for approximately 20 to 25% of our overall revenue for the season.
It's definitely a blow this time of season for us. This is a time where we can make that extra bank during the holidays and kind of keeps us going through the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens here in a couple weeks.
Ontario is the only province in Canada and place in all of North America to be forced to shut down their ski hills as a result of COVID-19. Until this past week, ski hills were told they would be able to operate in Ontario under the grey lockdown level of the provincial government's COVID-19 restriction framework. The last second change comes as a shock, as the resorts put in a great deal of effort to be open this season, knowing no matter what the restrictions were, they would be allowed to be in operation.
You know, having this change in government policy is what has really affected us, because we could have planned for it appropriately, and unfortunately we were left kind of holding the bag, not knowing what direction to go.
Both areas will use the 2-week closure to ensure the ski hills are in peak condition in hopes of being able to reopen on January 9th. Ava McRae, TBT News.
A suspicious Christmas Day death in Couchiching First Nation is under investigation after a report of a domestic assault with a weapon. Ontario Provincial Police, called in by Treaty 3 Police, are looking into the death of a 41-year-old from Big Grassy First Nation. OPP responded to a Rainy Lake Boulevard residence where they found 3 victims with injuries and an unresponsive 41-year-old man who was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Treaty 3 Police, with the assistance of the Rainy River District OPP, are looking into the circumstances surrounding the death. A post-mortem examination is scheduled to take place in Toronto this upcoming week. And 2 years after being connected to the provincial energy grid, Pikangikum First Nation is now on the cusp of being connected to high-speed internet through Starlink. Starlink is one of many space-based projects being launched by tech industrialist billionaire Elon Musk, which will place thousands of satellites in low orbit around the Earth, which will in turn provide high-speed internet access to remote communities, with Pikangikum being one of them. Kenora MP Eric Melillo says he is excited to see a high-profile company like Starlink take an interest in the region. Adding the promotion and expansion of broadband internet access in the north is something he has pushed for some time.
It was an exciting day for Pikangikum when the work started, and I think it's really an exciting day for everyone across the north because having worked with my conservative colleagues and with the government to frankly put some pressure on them and help make sure that Starlink was able to enter the market, and with the CRTC approvals, I think it's going to be not only great for Pikangikum, of course, who's getting the pilot and having that first opportunity, but hopefully there will be opportunities for Starlink to expand.
Melillo says while he is happy to see government investment in connection services like fiber optic line construction, he believes private companies like Starlink are able to provide options and increase competition. City of Thunder Bay is proceeding with plans to demolish and replace the deteriorating production greenhouses at the Centennial Botanical Conservatory. The city has begun advertising for a consultant for the project, which is expected to cost $1.8 million. Preliminary plans for the new greenhouse call for a 9,500 square foot double-peaked structure. The project would be the first in a larger plan to refurbish the entire conservatory. That plan is expected to cost an additional $3 million. Council approved the greenhouse project earlier this year, despite a recommendation in their program and service review that the conservatory should be completely closed. Construction of the greenhouse project is expected to begin in August, with completion by next December. And the outdoor rink in the township of Conmee officially has its roof. Funded by government grants, the roof was installed on Tuesday of this past week. Now, town staff will be hard at work getting the ice ready for mid-January, but as Kayla Karim reports, the roof will bring more than just a longer skating season.
Luckily enough, the township of Conmee was able to get their brand new roof for their 5-year-old outdoor rink put up before the heavy snowfall ravaged northwestern Ontario during the holiday week. The $320,000 project was funded through government grants, a process that's been in the works since the summer of 2019. Conmee Mayor Kevin Holland says the addition of the roof is a big positive for his community.
I haven't talked to a lot of the members of the community, but from what I'm hearing out there, that there's a lot of excitement. They like the idea. They're happy that it's fully funded and not going to be a burden on the property taxes.
The roof will allow for extended use of the rink, lessening the impact of the sun in the early spring and sheltering it from the harsh snow from northwestern Ontario winters. And while it will benefit the skating season, Holland hints it will also help out during the summer months.
We've been approached by a lot of different organizations once the word got out about using the facility even during the summertime for things like flea markets and farmers markets. There's quite a ball hockey league in the area that really are excited about the opportunity to use the facility.
Being a small rural community of just under 900 people, Holland says it can be difficult at times to get funding from the government for recreation projects. He says getting this project all but wrapped up will go a long way for families in his community.
Being able to get this grant to make the rink surface more multi-purpose and prolong the life of it in the wintertime, I think is going to give families a lot more opportunity to get out together and do things.
Kayla Karim, TBT News.
And look who's here, our good friend Mike Mahorovich. Mike, sometimes you might have a little trouble putting your sports pack together throughout this crazy sports year, but this weekend you just got a plethora.
It's easy for me, you know, easy lead story. The World Juniors last night was crazy.